Hello and welcome to the Turn by Turn podcast. And today we are underpowered because we lost Chris. But when you're underpowered, you bring in the underpowered guys. So today I am joined with Casey of the Underpowered Podcast. How you doing?
Good. Good to see you again, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
I know we snuck onto their show without them noticing, and now I invited him onto ours. So
well, we came up with the spinoff Turn and Burn, right? Where it's games we only hate. No, we had you guys on for JRPG July, which was great. It was a good start to that month because one of the guys on our show, Phil, he started Chrono Trigger and he just beat it today.
He did.
Recording. Yeah, and he got ending number 1. And I tried I did my best for no spoilers. He only didn't get Robo's side quests, which made me sad because that's my favorite side quest.
A single tear falls from my eye.
Yeah. Robo's the best character. You know, get that apocalypse arm and he's a beast.
Definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah. He never played it because on our show we battled backlogs and like play old and new games, and I said that's like a must play, and he kind of was hesitant, and now it's really things like I joke, but this was a really good game, and it's really cool because it's 30 years old. And I know we're here to talk other games, but we're big JRPG and RPG. We spend our Julys playing those. We decided, and then the new Pokemon comes out in November, and so I'm kind of gearing up because I work in education, and I coach. The sport I coach is really busy in the fall. But November, we're going to focus on the launch of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But we do Metroidvania March, and then we do some other shows too. So yeah, I like a good theme. If it has alliteration, you can probably sell it to me.
Need like Fire Emblem month or
August
something.
Action RPG. Fire Emblem February. There we go. Right. I'm a big Fire Emblem guy. See, you got me.
We have to mention Fire Emblem one time per episode, or else it's not real turn-by-turn episode.
Yeah, so get out your bingo boards if you were listening and check that one for the Fire Emblem reference.
Exactly. But Chris isn't here to fill in some of his bingo things, so we'll see if we can fit in some of Chris's witticisms and stuff, even though he's not here.
Try my best. Well, he didn't play this amazing game we're going to talk about today.
No.
As you said it, I said it, he's chump.
Exactly. We're calling you out.
Yeah.
So he probably listened to this after he plays it. Without further ado, today we are going to talk about triangle strategy, which is I'm totally kidding. I'm very in on this game. We have already done a bit of an episode where we talked about the decisions of triangle strategy and how they feel wildly unfair half the time.
Yes and no. Okay. Well, how did you hear about triangle strategy? What made you want to play it?
I think the Nintendo Twitter just dropping like concept art, honestly.
The directs, right? When you see that,
yep.
Like I'm a sucker for that 2.5 inch. I love Octopath, and I like that pixel art style. But then I'm a huge Final Fantasy Tactics fan. But everyone said this is like Tactics meets Tactic Ogre, which I didn't play a lot of. But I'm a big D&D player. And so when they talked about the choice tree, I was like, oh, that's really intriguing because D&D is a game about if you play it right, you have options, right? Your choices have consequences later. And also like gambling dice, right? So you can't really choose. Same for me. The direct was the big thing that I got hooked into. And the decisions do seem unfair, but it makes me... You remember the movie Butterfly Effect?
A little bit, yeah.
With Ashton Kutcher. And we can trash on it, but what I liked about that movie was you talked about like, if you didn't do certain things, what's the effect in your life, right? Because if you time travel, I feel like this with time travel in media, it's either really good or really bad. There's no middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like meh, it's timey-wimey, But I think that Butterfly Effect does a really good job of showing what just the littlest changes can do to someone's life, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when you play, so how many times have you beaten Triangle Strategy right now? What's your play time?
So I've done one full playthrough, and then I started another playthrough that got a little, I don't know what the right word, ham-fisted. I'm not sure what the right metaphor would be, but I got about halfway through and I realized I was still too moral to get the golden route. So I got like hogtied. See how many pork I can get in here.
Yeah. So hogtied, ham-fisted. I'm trying to think of any other. I don't know. Like a pig and slop. That's how that game makes me feel.
Like pork rolled back into.
It really burned my bacon.
Yeah, totally burned my bacon.
There it is. So there's I've gotten every ending. I put 145 hours into that game. Wow. Yeah, so I don't want to spoil too much for any listener that's still playing, but I think we're probably gonna have to borderline it. What ending did you get? Did you go with Frederica, Benedict, or Roland in your first playthrough?
So I've watched through the other two endings, but what I did choose to do was Frederica's ending. Because
that means you're a good person. Yeah, that's the ending you should pick, right?
Like mentally, like it was very hard to say, like, no, we'll just let those people be like genocide. Like,
right, yeah.
And like it's just a game, but like in my head, like I couldn't like pick other things. So when I did my second playthrough, I was like, I'm gonna be a jerk this time. And like I was not jerk enough to like change it. So
So you're getting morality again. Well, it really comes down to that final section. It's whoever you line up with. So I guess if you skip every vote, right? Like if I asked someone on a forum, there's a big Triangle Strategy Discord, and I said, what happens if you don't try to persuade anybody? You just go through the motions, like you hit plus and move on, because you can, you don't have to talk to everybody, right? Mm-hmm. You automatically end up with Benedict's ending. That's the generic ending.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's very imperialistic, because that story has a lot of twists and turns. My first playthrough was Roland's ending.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I wanted to, like, okay, Esfrost is bad, but not really. And then when you pick Roland's ending, Frederica's not down for that. And it's really, like, you feel really disappointed. You're like, why did I do this when you pick this ending? Because I was hoping for, like, a character turn with Roland. And there's a lot of Roland hate on the Triangle Strategy Twitter. People are like, he's a useless unit. And how did you feel as Roland as a unit? Did you like playing with him?
I enjoyed the attacks, but I felt like he was like a one-hit phenomena. Like, he gets, like, the fantastic movement is like instantly negated by the fact that he can't take hits.
Right. You have to give him, he's kind of cleanup. That's what people have to realize. He's not a Fire Emblem Paladin where you go in and tank. And for people that don't know, this is a game about, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. It's about a continent where resources are scarce, and there's 3 factions that work together based on a war 30 years ago. And because of certain resources being found, it creates this total political overthrowing of certain factions, and it's a hot what's the word? It's a hot mess.
Yeah.
Geopolitical mess. It's a geopolitical mess. Yeah. And it's really good storytelling. But like, how are you feeling about it? Like you said, the second playthrough, it's a little ham-fisted. The first playthrough, I feel like everyone's blown away. Oh my God, look at the capability of this game.
Mm-hmm. It definitely the first time it's really big, and it has that bonus perk of when you make a decision, you don't know kind of what it's going to trip, way the story's necessarily going to pivot.
Right.
And you don't know if the decision is going to change the whole game or just like change something a little bit. So you don't know if the whole narrative is going to shift in another direction, or you're just going to kill a village and it won't really affect much.
In the yeah, right, because the big thing is everyone talks about the sequence where you can light, and this is slight spoilers, so everybody's still playing it. The sequence where if you decide to save Roland, because Roland's a prince and he has to leave because there's things happen to his family, you can then use Serenoa, who's the main protagonist and the leader of the Wolfheart army. You have to choose to you in the battle. You learn that your city has a mechanism that puts up traps and captures people and burns them. Right. Tip for those trying to get the golden plate through. You either A, choose to give up rolling actually for the golden route. This is a slight hot tip. Or you do the Wolfort fight, but you don't use any of the traps. And on the first playthrough, that general of the Flora is so strong. It's really, really hard. Huette's the MVP of that level, though. You just put her on a roof and just shoot.
Mm-hmm.
The plot, I feel like as someone who's played a lot, if you play it once, I played it multiple times to get every character because I wanted to get I'm like that. Like I'm a guy like I need to get every character and every weapon in the game. Those are two things I'm always big about: best gear, best weapon. But to really understand the breadth of the story, you could play it maybe 2 or 3 times. There's some really good guides about how to get the golden route. I don't want to spoil too much. The golden route takes the best parts of each route. Okay, the golden route takes the best parts of each route. Like I'm really happy that this happened with Roland's ending, but everything else is really bad. Hey, I'm really happy that this happened with Frederica. Frederica's ending is the most ideal till the big twist in it, because then you're like, well, that's really sad, right? Like of course. And they foreshadow it so hard, and then when you have it, you're like, duh, And then Benedict's is like the most like, okay, this is just how it worked with ancient warfare and politics. Like he's, people take the throne and conflict still continues. But in the golden route of the story, if you do everything right and you talk to the right people, there's this really epic moment where they're like, okay, you take every character you have and you split them into 3 armies. And then, so this one group's going to go fight one battle, the other group's going to go fight the other battle, and the other group's going to go fight the other battle. So you have to be really smart about who you put where. And if you put certain characters in a certain spot, you get unique dialogue. Who are some of your favorite characters?
So characters that stuck out to me, and this is probably going to sound a little strange. I was a big fan of Piccoletta just because it felt like super different.
The juggler?
Yeah, the little juggling
She's
girl.
good. She's a tank.
Really
She's a dodge tank. People don't realize that. Yeah.
She's really fun, and she has like the launched attacks, which is like a cool, interesting thing. And it's not just like an archer or a sword person. Mm-hmm. Like a juggler doesn't like register as like that's definitely odd versus like your normal like Fire Emblem cast of characters where you have your 3 magic people, your sword people, your cavalry. So
yeah, Axeman, tank, right?
Exactly. Like Hasabara is another one that stuck out. Like the mounted healer was super cool.
Yeah, that's surprising. Did you unlock her ultimate move?
I did not.
So I love the blacksmithing system where if you build your weapon at the final tree, you get a special unique move or skill. Hers is called Catapult, where she launches her teammates, and for movement, so they end up on a square. Right? She's good utility. She's surprisingly good, and she's hardy, and she can actually do some damage. She's great.
Yeah. So one of my biggest regrets was that I did super load Roland, thinking it was in that like Fire Emblem, like the horse riding characters are naturally stronger. So like I used so many resources, like upgrading him to the max, thinking that it was going to end up being this like powerhouse, like tank character. And then it really bit me. So I had fully upgraded Serenoa and fully upgraded Roland.
Serenoa is worth every upgrade.
Oh yeah.
And then the other thing about this game is it has this subsystem, the Quietus system, where you buy like these cards to play onto the grid. Did you use those a lot?
I didn't use those.
Okay, so you buy those with the like at the end of the battle you get points. I like when they reward you like, oh, here's a point for a back attack. Here's a point for using higher ground. Here's a point for using the elemental difference. If you can hit 5 enemies at once, you get like 4 points, right? There's these hidden point system, and you can use them in game to buy items for blacksmithing that you need to upgrade your weapons, or these certain items that let them, I want to say evolve, like Pokemon. You get to move up to a job class. You can promote them, like Fire Emblem. And but there's these Quietus cards. What people don't realize is like one of the Quietus cards is you have 5 points that you can invest into, right? Initially you start with 3, and then you can buy 5 Quietus points to max out in the game. But like one card, like use 1 Quietus point, and you can heal any of your characters 50% and restore them from int status, right?
Mhm.
Or one of them is use this one and the next hit guaranteed critical. So one of my early strategies with Serenoa was I'd use that critical card and I'd get him surrounded because he has a AoE move that gets everyone around him, and he would wipe out like at least half or more, right, of the enemies. The quietest card, no one uses those. Hit the minus button if you're playing it and look at those cards. They're definitely worth it.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that. Like I remember like reading about it, but sort of putting it to the side.
The game doesn't really baby you. It's like figure it out. Good luck. Like it kind of like there's no real true tutorial. Like there's the first mission where you fight the bandits, but they don't really like. You're like, why is there no MP? Right? You have the little yellow points, right? The battle points, and then it's just like, yeah, you have to kind of dig for things in that game.
I really also liked the bandit archer girl. Her name's like totally blanking right now.
Oh, the from the earlier game. Hold on, I know what you're talking about. The redhead, right?
Yeah. What's her name?
She has the flame arrow. Unless it's like Lynn. Yeah, she's good. Did you ever get Archibald?
Yes, I did.
He's great minus his movement. He's like this old school archer. I liked him. She's good because of her jump. What is her name?
Yeah.
The dad is Travis. I know Travis, and then it is. That's gonna drive me nuts. I wish there was this thing where I could look it up.
I know. What is that?
Like a machine where I could type in any question, and it would come. Trish. That's her name. Trish. They both have T names. Yeah.
Like the jumping, and I believe she has like a steal move as well.
Yeah, she can steal, and her dad. So the alternate is if you choose to not save the Brazilians, because there is a group of people that are like that have been genocided for the last 30 years in the game. So there are some heavy tones to the story. If you decide to like not do that, you get Travis instead of her, and Travis can mug like passively when he attacks, or he has a mug move.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and he tosses people. He's a grappler. Like I really like Travis because he's just a big brute with the club. It's the worst character I think is a character called Giovanna. Did you get them?
I did not. Wasn't able to recruit her.
Okay, so Giovanna is a geologist type character that, like, if you think of the Geomancer from Final Fantasy Tactics, except she can't use her moves all the time. You have to be on water to use the water move. You have to be on grass to use the grass move. So, like, certain maps, great, but like 90% of the time, useless.
What did you think of the barrel guy?
Decimal?
Yes.
I think Decimal, as far as RPG robots go, is low tier. I like his story with Anna and that he wants to be complete, and his ability's cool, but I don't like that he has to stand there and do nothing for a turn to get charged up. Because the calculator or the mathematician class in Final Fantasy Tactics was really strong. And I'm like, oh, this is that, but it kind of pared down. He's not horrible. But I think he's a funny character. I like that he's a barrel. I think they should have given him a little more. Like I said, I'm a Robo fan and Chrono Trigger. Robo's still top robot. No, yeah. I also really liked Eridor.
Okay, sure. I love the ram being able to knock him back.
You use the flame shield with Frederica, and then you just taunt everybody, and then he can counter. Yeah, he's the. And then, like we talked about with the final battle, the Narv, he. To go back to like the fight, his story with the people that the Byzantians, he has his background is his grandfather is this great wizard, for those that don't know it, and he's trying to clear his name, and there's a character that he talks to in one of the battles if you put him up there, and they have this unique dialogue talking about that, and he acknowledges that who his grandpa was. You're like, oh wow. So I like those little payoffs in the battle. They do a good job with that.
Yep.
But what I guess, like, this game is really, there's so much to this game. There's so much to this game that each character is unique. The gimmicks, like the quietest system, the decision making, I really like that. Did you ever feel like the choices were kind of forced though? Like you didn't really like.
Yeah, so I think that it felt like with some of the choices, the expected response of the decision that you made wasn't what you'd get. It'd be like, you'd make the choice and it'd be like, haha, you must be joking with me. We're doing this instead, kind of thing.
You had to do the right investigating in the towns to have the right conversation. And I'm going to tell everybody, it's not always the third option that you unlock, because you kind of have to learn. Here's the thing. It's Roland and his retainer, Frederica and her retainer, Benedict and his retainer, and then you, and Eridor is basically Cyrano's retainer. And I know that's like his trust, it's his table, it's his like strategist. I would have really liked it to be the whole team you recruited. I think there was some opportunity that it would have been really hard to program, I'm sure, or to make that. But like, if a character like did you get Rudolph from the if you choose to go to Asfrost, he's great with the traps. Like if there was a vote where he could be involved, like they should have put other characters in some of the voting. I would have liked that. This game has a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Because of that. Yeah. And the voice acting is. I don't want to poo-poo the voice actors. I'm sure they do a great job. I don't think this game needed voice acting. I think that's the real issue.
I think the fact that it drops in and out, where like some things are important enough for it and other things aren't, is kind of odd.
Do you remember in Awakening when they would just say a little bit? I like that more. I think that would have been more impactful.
You get like a sentence here or there.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. And then, because sometimes the voice acting is really flat. Like some of the characters bring it every time, but like I feel like Cyrano could be flat at times, and Benedict is very like just flat to me. And that's his character. He's supposed to be like that, but I don't know. I don't know what it was with that game. I tried switching to Japanese, and it kind of gets a better flow. But I don't think every game needs voice acting these days.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Because it's a really good. Here's the thing: what really makes it good is it's really good tactical, like strategy RPG. At the core of it, like each character is designed really well. I always talk about tile feel. Like, how does the grid feel? I love that I can look at the map at any angle, but it does those things really well. And the story's not bad, but it's just so much. You get it in such big chunks, right? Like it's the flow of it seems a little off to me.
Yeah, it has the visual novel as like a very, very heavy subgenre.
Heavy, yeah, it's really a lot of that. The rhythm to the game goes off for a little bit because of it. Like the pacing just seems a little off because of it. But it's a cool mechanic, and it's very unique. Like no other game. There's some games where your choices, like Mass Effect, a choice would have a really good. Like Mass Effect, probably the best example of a game that I make a choice and then there's an impact. At least Mass Effect 2, you're really great at that. And this does it okay. Nothing like doesn't knock it out of the park for me.
Yep, and I think it forces you to read it, because if you skip through stuff, you're gonna have no idea what's going on.
This isn't a game where you can like sit and like have TV in the background. If you're gonna play it, you need to be locked in.
Yep.
Especially if you play on hard. Like some of those, even on normal, some of those battles you have to do it a couple times. Like I found myself like, there's this one in the mine with the bombs.
Oh, brutal.
Brutal. That was like how many times did you finish a battle with like 2 or 3 characters left? Like
almost all of them.
Yeah. I'm so glad there's no permadeath. If someone beat that with permadeath, they'd be like, they're too good. This game's too hard.
That, and then there's one battle where you're at like a shipyard where Avalora shows up to fight you, and you have the help of Hyzant. So Hyzant sends you.
Yes.
And it's like one like named character that's not super introduced by that point, and then like the
fat evil bald guy. I always hated him. Yeah.
And then like two other units, and it's a what would you call it? Like a trap battle where you're stuck up top and everything.
A coup de grace.
Yeah.
That's fun. That was a good word. I'm really proud of myself on that one. Look at that. Yeah.
That battle,
and that
6
yeah.
times.
That was a hard one. Well, and so you chose to double cross Evlora, right? Because that battle's cool too, because you can choose not to double cross her. You can go against Kaizen. And listen, people, if you think Kaizen's good at all, I'm going to tell you this. No, they're like no one. Here's the thing, because the theme is like it's not good or bad. We're all good or bad. It's both, right? I think that's a heavy theme in there.
Yep.
Like what Sarah Noah does affects other people too, and it's war. It doesn't glorify things. It lets you know like it's dark and people get affected, but you're trying your best to make things better. But it's about hope. I think that's a big theme in the game. What do you think the overall theme of the game is?
How about we cut to a quick break and then I'll tell you.
Perfect.
How's that for a segue?
I love it.
You gotta come up with some surefire re-entry after the break. We'll be right back. Bye.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Mike.
And we are brothers-in-law. We both love beer and are amateur home brewers.
Wait, so does that make us brothers-in-law?
I believe so.
Every episode, we will talk about aspects of beer and home brewing.
But nothing super technical because we're learning this too.
So join us as we sit down together and dive into something beer-related.
Whether it's a little field research, tasting a certain beer style, or beers from a specific brewery.
Talk about our experiences brewing beer at home, including our own solo brews, as well as themed competitions we'll set up along the way.
We will also talk about some of our favorite aspects of brewing, like hops, extra ingredients, building our brew cave, and more. And of course, our own misadventures that have happened along the way.
So, if you like beer, are home brewing already,
or if you have an interest in home brewing and don't know where to start,
join us on Brothers-in-Law Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And make sure to follow us on Twitter at Brothers-in-Law and check out our website, brothersinlaw.com.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Has this ever happened to you?
This video game is bullshit!
Are you tired of gaping plot holes and boring gameplay mechanics?
Look, all I'm saying is that if a full-fledged Krogan is falling off a platform, there's no way Commander Shepard has the upper arm strength to pull him up.
Has reading become just too tedious of a chore?
Ugh, books.
Are you bored of your same 3 murder podcasts?
Shocking. It's The Butler.
Allow me to introduce you to the brand new fan fiction podcast with an X, hosted by our lovely basement-dwelling and real-life Muppet, Dan McCoy.
Well, that's hurtful.
And myself, of course, the blonde bombshell with the blood of Odin and the great looks of Jake Busey from Starship Troopers.
That's accurate.
And with our powers combined.
No.
Oh, you never let me do what I want to do.
I said no, man. We're not doing that.
Fine. Anyway, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your fix from. Remember, fan fiction with an X.
Hello, and we are back from our break for real. And
for real. There was no errors during any other recording.
No, definitely not. First take's the most honest. So
yeah,
before we left for break, you had asked what I thought of the themes of the game.
Yeah, what do you think is the overall theme or underlying themes of the game?
I would agree with you that hope sticks out, but I also think that, and this sort of maybe leads to one of my questions for you, is do you think that the golden ending kind of kills the premise of the game?
No, not at all.
No?
I think the golden ending is the goal, because that each ending represents, so there, I think the themes are the endings. You have the mortality theme, you have the liberty theme, you have the utility theme, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the thing about choices aren't black and white. When you hit the golden route, so what hyped it up for me, I remember texting my friend, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of going through the motions here, because I'd seen everything, but whenever I got to something I hadn't seen in that golden route, I really paid attention to it, right? And it gets you really hyped up, because they realize there is a way for us to work together and do this. And so like when you get to see that battle and they're like, pick your army, and if you have every character and you can load up every army. I did my final run on hard because I'm a masochist, or I just like to struggle. That's why I was playing the game till the end of August or middle of August, because I just beat it 2 weeks ago. And it doesn't ruin it. The game can also be like, I know how is it you or your co-host that plays the like Fire Emblem? If your character dies, that's just how you play it. That's you,
me.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that. And I think not to get too philosophical, I remember in high school I had to read a book by Percy Pratt, and it was about your experiences. And it's like in the books, everything is an argument. And the idea that how you experience something is unique to you, right? So like for instance, the first person that saw the Grand Canyon, we're never going to, we can see the Grand Canyon for our first time, but it's nothing like his experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it diminish our experience? No, it's different, right? The argument though is he has a different perspective. I don't think it ruins the game, because I think the game wants you to find that there is a way to make things happen, right? But the game also lets you know, like I said, like if you go to a different ending, that's it. Like, hey, not everything's black and white, but you can be, some people might be happy with that. Like the morality ending is very sad, but it wraps up a story in a good way, and it's real. You know, I don't want, again, like I know we can spoil, so I'll give people, I'm gonna spoil the mortality ending. And on Underpowered, there's a big joke that I am the worst about spoilers because I spoil everything, and I've tried my hardest to be better, but I feel like we have to have, if this is a conversation about it, right?
Yeah, spoilers are well welcome for this particular episode.
Good.
Some go later.
I have PTSD from my Discord, and everyone on the show giving me a hard time this week about spoilers. So when you choose something, Sarah Noah makes a sacrifice for himself, right? In these final moments in the mortality run. And I gave people enough warning to like tune out. And that's really, you're like, oh no. But if you don't do that, it sullies that ending, right? It kind of would deflate the trait. Morality is the best choice because they lived happily ever after. No, morality, your sacrifices to morality too. The golden ending is just golden because it works out, right? And it gives you the idea like, hey, there's a world where things can work out, but you have to work really hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that.
And the flexibility of it, that there's times on like the moral route where it's just like, just shut up and talk to each other. Like, this is so
That's every
easy.
round. That's every round.
Yeah, every single time. And one battle that sticks out in particular is one of the regents. That's probably not the right word at all, but we'll say regents of Glenbrook, the Archer Lord. His kingdom decided that he was
the guy from the I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so
Flanagan or something. His name starts for Falks. House Falks.
House Fox.
Yeah.
Decides that they're gonna stay loyal to Glenbrook regardless, and then Sarah Noah and his people go to talk to him and tell him that they're still on his side and trying, and he's just like, no, it's too late. Like, you must die. And it's like, just let him talk, please. Just let him talk.
And it doesn't help. Asfrost comes up and it's like, does a coup on them and makes them look bad, and they have to fight. Right. A lot of this talking would solve a lot of the problems. Like if we talk about this game, there's a lot of talking, but I think the Fox thing made me sad because I would have liked them to explore that house more. Like they kind of like, yeah, it's gone. We're getting rid of it. And if you never do the giving up Roland arc, you never see that.
It's definitely probably the game where I've like been like silently like screaming at my Switch. Mm-hmm. Like, don't, like, this is so easy. Just talk it through. Like, you're both talking that you should talk together. Why are you now cutting each other's heads off? Please stop.
Right. That always surprised me too. All the like, it's not like overly gory, but when someone dies and there's a puddle of blood.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, all right, nice. You know, a little hardcore. But there's characters you want to die too. Like, if you are looking at characters, something like if you hit X while they're talking, you can see their character profile, and you see the drawing of them. And some of them, you're like, oh, this guy's a scumbag. If you look at the picture, immediately you're like, nope, not this guy.
They all have, even your like heroes have like that, like ghoulish scowl about them, like Corentin, the ice mage from Hyzant. Like he looks like he's like completely evil.
Yeah, or he's a total nerd. That's about the side stories are really fun. Did you ever get his side story with Eridor?
Yes, where he like passes out.
Eridor gets him hammered, and he's like, "You've had 2 beers." Like Eridor's like, "What is wrong with you?" That's a great. I wanted more of the stories to be hitting like that. Here's the other thing that kind of gets me about the game. I talked about like the lords have the retainers and the lords are in every side story, and I was like, well, why can't this character have like a story with this character, right? Like they should be talking to each other. I think what this game misses too is the world map. What's the best part about tactics is that you could go to a place and get in a fight. Like I was like, what if they did this game but with monsters in it too? Like you could just have random battles instead of the mock battles, because the mock battles is a unique encounter. That's how you do. This game also doesn't promote grinding. That was the thing I thought was unique about it. Mm-hmm. They want you to play at the level that the game's at, and then your character, if you do that, your characters level up faster.
There's a little bit with Hasabara in the caravan, right?
Right. That's what you go to her and you talk to the mock battles, but you do those to get resources, and then you go and but you level like it's better to pick a level 50 battle. And if you have someone that's a low level, they'll gain levels like 10 levels after hitting someone or killing someone like really fast. Mm-hmm. They reward that. No, the game, I don't know. Like the game is, we were talking about characters. You wanted to ask me about Quahog, I think, right?
Yeah.
So what do you know about Quahog?
I read an article about how his like space-time mechanics allow it to completely fracture like the system of the game. In a way, yeah. He can move you. So like that's the other thing. So he has foresight, right? And his thing is he can make a turn rewind, or he can put like a time attack on someone, and it's their turn. The turn it does damage to them, non-elemental. But what I liked about him is he can warp someone. So like you can move a character to a spot, or you could pause things for time. He can manipulate the clock, which is great. He's actually a very strong character for sure. Like that mind level we were talking about earlier, having him move people. And then I go back to that quietus system. There's a quietus system where you can move someone, and you can move them 30 feet, right? Or not 30 feet, so many squares. And so there's ways to break the game with him and the quietus system. He's actually really important for a way I found to make super fast money. As a character, he's kind of like, okay, he's like an abandoned kid. And you're like, oh, that's sad. And you're kind of like, he needs to be in the back and you can help me fight. He's about finding purpose. But him, Nerv, the wizard, who I love, he's got some really good spells. And then the other character I love that most people hate is Lionel. So the merchant is a good dodge tank. But if you fill out the merchant's weapon tree and give him all his luck points, and then you get his passive ability is when someone kills someone, or when they drop an item, if he picks up the item bag, he makes money off of it. So if you fill up all his luck on his talent tree, he gets 1,000 gold. So what you do is you do this chapter where there's an arena. I think it's like a level 23 arena is what it was. And I'd pick Narv, I'd pick Quahog, and I'd pick Lionel. And you give Narv an item that makes him go first. It's this badge, and it's the red scarf. There's an item that makes you go first no matter what. And then you give him my other favorite item in the game is the golden pinky ring. When you kill someone with the golden pinky ring, it's an automatic drop. You use Narv's whirlwind attack. This is my hot tip for everybody. He'll kill 10 guys, and if they get all 10 bags, you then have Lionel. You use the quietest thing to make Lionel go second. Right? There's a move that's called in tandem that makes him go. He goes, he can start picking up the bags. And if you're really fast with it, and then you use Quahog to move him too, in that light, then you can get in 3 minutes 20,000 gold. Wow.
Yeah. Because I'm again, like I want to get the best gear, and because I was playing on hard, I'm like, I need everybody to be maxed out for those final 3 battles. So I was like, what's the fastest way I could do this? And I was like, my son was watching me. He's like, how fast are you doing that? I'm like, let's set a timer. And I was like, okay, this was 3.5 minutes. Can I beat that time? That was the game. That became the different game. But I like the music. The music was also like nice to kind of chill too. My son and I would turn that up and turn the voices off in battles a lot of the time when I'd watch him play. I feel like the studio, it's not as good as Octopath music, but it's good. The final song is killer.
It really sets the tone, and the tone tends to be kind of that like darker, dour sort of feel. So like it really aids. And like you were saying, this isn't something that you'd play while watching TV or something. And I tend to play a lot of games while like TV or something's on just for like background noise. In this game, I don't think I watched like anything. I just sat here, just sat there reading for hours.
I didn't want to miss either. Like if I get distracted, like you can miss a little dialogue, but like, wait, what happened here? Oh, he's dead. Like that can happen a couple times. Like, oh, they're bad. But the music, like it does really good build up. But there's no song where you're like, oh, this is like a nice, like this is jovial. Like this makes me happy. Yeah. It's all very intense music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it sets a tone. It's all good battle music. Yeah, it's the best part of the sound. It versus the voice acting, the music does carry those high highs. But I think the big thing we talk about, like someone was asking me, because we do a thing on our show at the end of the year called the games we love, because we don't always play new games. Like we had someone I talked about play Chrono Trigger, right? So it's games we played this year, and it's our top 5 that we love, and it can be from anything. And someone's like, oh, this is going to be your number 1 game. And I go, I actually don't know. The things it does well, it does really, really well, but it's not perfect.
I would agree with
that. No game is, but this game's really, it's a good game. And I think it's for a very specific audience. If you don't have the patience for long-form storytelling, you need to not play this, I feel like, would be my warning to people. I would say Octopath would probably be the way to go. I'm a huge Octopath fan. Do you think this game will ever go on sale, or do you think it'll end up on Game Pass like Octopath did after the first year?
I think so. I think one of the things that, and like I don't mean this in a negative way that it might kind of sound, but it's super thick and dense.
Yeah, like it's really heavy, and not like in an emotional way. It's just like it's like Dune.
Yeah, exactly. So there's not like the emotional or like comic relief scene. There's no scene where you're like, that was hilarious. Like even like the things that are kind of played as jokes, like register on like a moderately uncomfortable level. Like even like talking about Corentin passing out drunk, like that's like kind of funny, but like there's such a dark note to the whole thing that it just like.
Because he's talking about like, I'm going to be, well, like Lionel's story is kind of funny because he sells Air Frost, his side story, a bunch of bad potions that give him diarrhea, right? And Anna watches him, and Anna's the spy. Anna's probably my favorite. Anna and Hewitt are 2 of my favorite units in the game. And when she calls him out on it, he's like, well, you know, and they do good things. And she's like, but you represent House Wolfort. And then he turns it into a thing of like, I must make House Wolfort the most money, right? Because he's just a greedy fat dude. I don't know. Yeah, the game's super heavy, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Which won't be for everybody who if you play games as like escapism from like the serious world we live in, it might not be the thing for you because it might even stress you out quite a bit.
Right. But if you're looking for something that you can put a lot of time into and take a lot out of, and it's challenging, it's great for that. Like if you like Final Fantasy Tactics, I think a lot of people would like that. But Final Fantasy Tactics is still like the staple to me for those kind of games.
Yep, I've heard that. I actually haven't played it yet.
We need to get off air right now, and you need to go play it. It's on iOS, Borderlands. It's the best. The best.
I know. I need to.
Turn by turn, both of you play it. You can, and if somehow both of you got PSPs, you could play the 2-player mode together.
That'll be our season 6.
Season 6, the PSP years.
We happen to find 2 working PSPs and are now doing this.
Right, that didn't explode. Yeah, with the battery. You play that in Crisis Core, and then you call it good. It's only a 2-episode season.
One other character that we forgot to point out that I think is kind of interesting was, and I'll probably butcher this, Azana, the weather.
The shaman?
Yes, the weather shaman. I thought her powers were really unique, and like I wasn't always able to find cool ways to use them. I still like the skill set and how it stands out as good.
that's the other thing I like about the game. She's great. Like, they use weather in this game really well. My favorite thing to do was throw oil pots, like the large oil pots, and then set them on fire. Because then it makes the enemies, you can't, like, if they're really dumb, they'll go through it, and then it's free damage.
Yep.
But, like, hitting a lightning bolt in the water and everybody in the water getting toasted from that, when that happened, I was like, yes, awesome, great, love this. Because it's like a subtle thing. I like that. And other games have done that now. South Park Stick of Truth does a good job with that. Like, you could go most of that game without fighting if you figure out the little puzzles beforehand, how to kill everybody, a lot of times. But I like it when the environment is involved. Like, oh, I can make this rock fall on this person or do that,
Mm-hmm. A lot of times I felt like I was just making the battlefield wet.
Mm-hmm. Make it rain, literally.
Like, make it rain, but, like, doesn't do a whole lot. So,
and then if the wind, if you use the wind, it really screws up the archers. That was the big thing there.
And Narv would definitely be a top 5 for me.
Narv is great. The wind spell, the lightning bolt spell, awesome. Narv's top 5. Huette is really good. I'm trying to think. And then it's like personal preference. Benedict's not bad. Sarah Noah is a top 5 unit because his stats are so padded.
Yeah. Benedict, I was a little down on. Same with Julio.
He doesn't have enough offensive output. Julio can actually do some damage at the end if you get him his final move because it's a big AoE attack like Sarah Noah's.
Yeah.
And he's good at distributing. Like, he gives everybody mana or TP. I like Julio, but I can see why you would be down on him, and I can see why people are down on Benedict because Benedict can't kill anything. He just makes you get invincible in like 3 turns.
Mm-hmm. And then Jens, the blacksmith, was
Jens.
Loved the ladder, making the ladders and setting the traps.
Did you ever get his turret?
Yes.
That was the best. You put that up in a corner and you put it next to your other archer. Oh, love that. Love Jens. Or launching. When you launch someone and they fall, a big fall, and it does like at the third or 2/3 of their HP and damage, you're like,
Jens is like a must-have for that battle with Avalora.
You just, in the ladders are clutch sometimes too. When you're like, there's a battle where you're stuck inside a cliff and like you're surrounded by archers. You need Jens. I do like the game says like, hey, use this unit the best. That's the best way to play, to be honest. I always went out of my way to be like, what does the game recommend? Okay, I'm going to use these units. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of like handpick like, okay, I like this guy. I like this one. But yeah, I like that the game does that.
Did you have any characters that you sort of already mentioned Giovanna, but like that you just not hated, but just
Giovanna sucks.
Just
That's
her,
the worst. Just her. It just because like, oh, it's a cool concept, and then you can't use it all the time. Like, okay, it's very niche, and I just want to be able to use the character like all the time, and her story's kind of cool, and her and Huette have like a cool moment in that story. So that's her only redeeming arc. And then if you take the golden route, put her in the Ace Frost battle. That is the only place she's useful. You want her there. You want her in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Because she has an ice magic attack there. But yeah, no, she's the worst. Decimal's probably pretty low on my list, sadly, even though I think he's funny. Oh, Gila the healer? She's all right. I like her fine.
I liked her better my second round.
Yeah.
First.
If you get but again, Narv can heal, right? And then like Roland's sister is not a bad healer. There's a what's her name? I can't think of it. Archibald's good. She's this old lady, but Groma. She's like an old kung fu master. She's pretty cool. But you get her, and it's kind of like, well, I can use the spy. Anna's maybe my favorite unit because Anna can attack like 5 times, and that's awesome. So handy. Anna is awesome. Anna's awesome.
Awesome. Well, what else?
I think we summed it up. To be honest with you, like, if you're looking for this JRPG, this is not bad, but know that you're reading a lot. That would be my claim there. Yeah,
definitely the visual novel with the awesome turn-based stuff stuffed in there.
Yes.
But be prepared for some dense decision making. Remember, it's just a game at the end of the day.
It is just a game, and it's okay to only play it once or twice. You don't have to do what I did and get the bad ending. The bad ending is also if you just don't find something in the game, like, and then they died and no one ever found them again. It's like, do you want to start that level over? Because you get credits and you're like, oh no. And yeah, So I like when a game trolls you like that a little bit too.
Yep, there was one battle in my first playthrough about 3/4 or 2/3 of the way through where I died, and like it plays out the entirety of your death and like what happens. And I remember just being like frozen, being like, what did I
have to start over? Yeah.
Just like, what just happened? Like, why did it give me like a 3-minute like synopsis of my failure? Like, did I need this?
That also sums up the game in a nutshell. Like, we're going to take 5 minutes to tell you how bad you are.
Yeah. You know? But I think that'll do it. Casey, Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks, Daniel. I know we talked a long time, but I appreciate you having me on, and it was good to talk to you about this interesting and awesome game, even though we were a little down on it.
Go check out Casey and Shelby on the Underpowered podcast, and I think they have a Pokemon. Well, I'll shut up and let you talk about it.
It's okay. It's me, my close friend Shelby, our buddy Phil, and then we have a fourth member now named Eric, and Eric does our Pokemon show, the Underpowered Pokemon Hour, but we're now streaming multiple times a week. Phil just finished Chrono Trigger, so I'll be curious to see what he's playing. Shelby is playing Hitman. He's playing through all the Hitmans, which is really fun to watch, especially when he killed someone with a muffin. That was a great clip for us. We're on YouTube. We're on all podcast platforms, and our Twitch channel is Underpowered TV. And we have a big Discord. We're just really trying to make a community for busy gamers and adults like you and me who work and try to squeeze time in for our games. We even though we're busy, we find time to game.
Great. So to summarize what he just said, check out all the turn-by-turn episodes, and then go check out the Underpowered guys and all the things that they're up to. And
especially start with the turn-by-turn episode on Underpowered. It's our best one.
It's the best turn-by-turn episode. It's funny.
No, it's the best Underpowered. Or it could be the best turn-by-turn, sure.
Maybe it's both. You can find us on Twitter at the Turn by Turn Pod. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and basically anywhere you get podcasts at the Turn by Turn Podcasts. You can find us on Instagram at the Turn by Turn Pod as well. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere. You can find me on Twitter at McGarr mentioning stuff, I guess. And until next time, we will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.